Welcome back, everyone, to the Kala Podcast. We deliver campus news and provide entertainment for Honolulu Community College. I am your host, Chris, and today I am joined by Alan and Bryson.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Joining us for today is our Chancellor for Honolulu Community College, Chancellor Lee. How are you today, Chancellor Lee?
Hello, I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, we're great. I don't know about the other two, but I'm great.
I'm doing fine so far. Just finished another meeting.
That's always good.
It's like Friday is meetings day.
Yes.
So, Chancellor, how often do you work on campus? Is it every day, or do you work on at home as well?
Well, up until a couple of weeks ago, I was working a few days on campus, a couple of days at home, mainly because my son was partially at home and someone needed to watch him. But now he is back full time in person at school. So I've been coming in more often to campus.
I see. So do you often, if you are at home, do you have like an office or do you work from bed? Because I know I would work from bed if I was from home.
Well, I have a 6-foot, those Costco folding tables? I have a setup in my bedroom, but at a table with my laptop and my monitor. I have to have a separate place. Otherwise, I think I would fall asleep on the couch or the bed. So it's better that I sit in a real desk-like environment.
Yeah.
How about you guys at home when you're studying? Are you able to study at a desk or the dining table?
For me, I have my own table in my room. So it's pretty long as well. It's about 5 feet wide. So I usually have everything on top of that, and I just work from that. But when during classes where our video doesn't need to be on, my bed is usually across the table, so I'm usually lying down, listening in and taking notes.
Yeah.
I used to work at a desk, but the chair is so uncomfortable. And I don't find it comfortable at all. So I moved to the kitchen island because I like to stand once in a while I'm in class or doing homework.
That's actually really good. Apparently, sitting is the new smoking. So you're supposed to be standing as much as possible. And I know this is a radio podcast or audio podcast, but I'll show you guys my cushions that I bought at Costco that I put on my dining room chair, and that helps a lot. Otherwise, I would feel the same, Alan.
I'm hoping to get a standing desk.
Yeah.
So, Chancellor, you have a very big resume. So you have a bachelor's in math, I believe.
Yeah.
And then you have a master's in education.
Yeah.
And then you have a doctorate as well.
Yeah.
So, what made you go through all of that education, all of that school, just to go back to school, I guess?
I know, that's a good question. Why would anyone go through all that only to end up back in college?
Yeah.
Well, growing up, education had always been drilled in me by my parents as the game changer in life. That it wasn't ever enough just to get a high school degree, but that I had to go on to college and maybe even beyond. And I was lucky because my dad actually has a PhD. So he was always a big proponent of me getting a terminal degree of some type, whether it was going to be in one degree or the other. And so I knew I was going to go to college. There was no question about it. And then towards the end of college, I had a couple of mentors in college, and I spoke to them about what I was going to do after I graduated. And, my undergraduate degree is in math, and I thought that I was going to work on Wall Street. So I kind of thought, well, I'm going to have this setup, an analytical background set up for Wall Street. And I worked one summer at a company called Bankers Trust, and I hated it. It was just not for me at all. Which is why I tell students, even if you take a job or an internship that you really don't like, it's okay, because it still gives you information, whether it's about something you do want to do or something that you don't want to do. It's still useful, because I could have entered a job that I hated, after I graduated.
Right.
So it was useful for me to have that summer job that was so painful and lousy, so that I knew that I didn't want to go work at a bank. And that's just for me. A lot of my friends ended up in a bank. And I was very active in college, like you guys are, as a student leader. I was very involved in student activities. And one of my mentors told me, you should look into this thing called higher education administration. And I was like, what's that? I've never heard anything like that. And started doing some informational interviews with people in the field. And they told me, in university administration, you could be a fundraiser, you could work in residential life, you could do student activities, you could be an academic dean. I mean, all these different areas. And I started looking into it, and I thought, I should do my master's degree in that field. And so that's what I did. And then many, many years later, after being married with a child, I did my doctorate, which I also do not recommend for anybody. A 4-month-old child, and you start your doctorate degree, it's so not fun. And I was working full time too. So, but yeah, that was kind of my journey.
So how did you eventually become chancellor of the community college?
Yeah, that's a good question. I when I talk to people and they ask me, what's your 5 to 10 year plan? Do you guys ever get that question, either from relatives or teachers or friends? I've actually not really ever had any plans. I might have a position or a type of job that I'm interested in exploring. But in general, the various jobs that I've had have been offered or vacant at the time. And it's just about being open to a new opportunity. So I always tell students, if someone says to you, hey, Alan, hey, Chris, would you guys consider this job? Because a friend of mine is looking to hire people in, that industry. I never say no. At first I have to think about it and consider. And this is what I tell my staff too, is always think yes before saying no. And eventually your answer could be no, right? But just be open to the possibility of this possible new field. And so there have been many jobs where I thought, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Thanks for offering. But then the more I think about it, the more I think like, oh, that could be kind of interesting. And so it's really just about being open to the opportunity. And so my background is, I've kind of been all over the place. And our old chancellor, Erica LaCroix, who's the chancellor of Honolulu Community College, she was the chancellor and she needed a vice chancellor of academic affairs. She and I have known each other since we both started at UH many years ago. And we were talking and I said, well, I'd be interested in trying that out. I was getting ready to leave my prior job. And so I came on as the vice chancellor of academic affairs. And I thought I would be in that role for a long time, but lo and behold, she was asked to be the vice president of all the community colleges because our big boss was retiring. And so she moved into that position. And then I moved from being vice chancellor to interim chancellor. And that's kind of how it came about. I was not looking to be chancellor, but it's funny how these things work out. And I'm sure it will be the same for you guys too, just keeping an open mind to it.
Oh, crazy. You climb up the ladder real fast.
Yeah.
I've had many jobs prior, though. I'm pretty old. So, these things happen. It used to be with my parents' generation. You guys are younger, but my parents' generation, people started at a company and you stayed at that company for 40, 50 years. But you guys in your generation, the turnover is so fast. It's like 3, 4, 5 years, and you might be maybe staying at the same company, but a different position. And so, you always want to be looking for that upward mobility if that's something you're interested in. You might just love your job and feel like it's great. But there hopefully will be chances for you guys to move into different interest areas.
Did you ever feel like you were ready to be the chancellor?
No, you never feel like you're ready. Right? I mean, I had only been at HonCC to learn people to get to know different procedures, and every campus and every office has a different culture, right? You kind of get a sense of people like this kind of thing or that kind of attitude, or they value this or that. So it takes a little bit of time to get used to it. So no, I did not ever feel ready to be chancellor, but I'm game. I mean, I'm ready to try at least. And of course, I will make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And I think it's a matter of, recovering, saying sorry if you need to say sorry, and moving on.
So now that you've been chancellor for a while now, what's it been like to be head of a community college?
Well, first I have to say that I love Honolulu Community College. I really think our campus is so special, and not just because I'm here. Obviously, I'm biased, right? I've not worked at another community college prior to coming here. I've been with UH for, let's see, I'm coming up on my 20th year. Crazy. So in the UH system, whether it was initially at Manoa, and then I worked at the UH system office for a number of years before coming to Honolulu Community College. So this is my first community college, but I really feel like we're a family. The faculty, the staff, the students, we're small enough that we get to know each other and try to support each other when we can. We have fights like family members. We have the crazy uncle or auntie. It's natural that that's going to happen. And we have disagreements, but I think that on the whole, our campus, we're all here for the students, you guys. We want to see you succeed. We're going to try to work together and communicate together to make it as smooth as possible for all of you guys to reach your goals. And, it's been hard because when it comes to campus decisions, the buck stops with me. And I need to realize that as a leader, I can't blame other people or pass off decisions to others. And like I said, if I make a mistake, I got to own it. So, I'm not perfect, but sometimes you have to exercise leadership, make some hard decisions, and then, and move on. But we have a really good team. We support each other. I trust the team very much, all of us in the administration. I don't ever feel like I can't trust somebody. That would be terrible. So I like that. And that helps me be excited about coming to work every day. Yeah.
It's good to know. Hey, Chancellor, I had some technical difficulties. On the topic of difficult decisions, what do you feel like has been one of the more difficult decisions you've made so far while being the Chancellor?
Well,
it's a tough question.
Yeah, there have been many. I think
the toughest one yet. The question.
Yeah.
Just hopped on and I'm hitting it hard. Yeah.
Bryson, thank you. I think that there are probably two, only because they're so different. The hardest part really in my entire career has been dealing with COVID. And the reason that was so hard is because it was the unknown, right? There was no playbook. There's no best practice. We didn't really know what was going on with COVID. You know, who would be impacted? Who would be affected? Should everybody go home? Can we offer some classes in person? And then for every student who wanted to come back in person, we would have another student who was like, I'm not coming back at all if the class is offered in person. And so everybody had a different tolerance level. And I needed to respect that. I might have a certain opinion, but since we didn't really know what was going to happen, we kind of had to just take our best guess. And you guys saw, I mean, all of us were kind of like, can we come back in person? Should we break up into teams? Can that professor do the class via Zoom? You know, what if you don't have Wi-Fi at home? Many of you have siblings and everybody's home at the same time learning. You know, I mean, it's really, really tough to deal with all of these different issues. So that was probably the hardest period, is that whole pivot last March, probably going up through, I don't know, October, November, when we kind of had a better idea of what it was going to look like. And I don't know if you guys know this, but all of the community college chancellors, we met every single day. We still meet every single day. And we just meet for an hour every day and we talk about some of the issues, because it helps to ask, you know, what are you doing about this? What are you guys doing about that? Have you had to deal with the situation? You know, so it helps to have other colleagues who are going through the same things. The second thing I would say is, as always, letting people go or not renewing somebody's contract, that is very, very difficult. And last year, we had, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but we had a program called the Construction Academy. And we had faculty who teach in the high schools. And maybe some of you guys went to some of the high schools where we taught at. And the students would not get any college credits for those classes, but they were taught by our HonCC faculty. And in doing the analysis of how students were doing in those classes, how many of them would come to our campus as credit students, how many of them were pursuing construction or, you know, hands-on trades, we realized that we had to kind of reformulate that whole program, that it wasn't working the way that it was intended to do so. And the only way we could do it, because of a number of different policies and factors, was to not renew any of the faculty's contracts. And then we were going to revise that program. But what happened was we didn't renew, and then we had the hiring freeze because of COVID. Right. So then we weren't able to hire back some of the faculty that we had hoped that we could. And that was super, I mean, just reimagining that whole program was really tough. And then realizing we couldn't even hire was even harder. And we had, already spoken to the high schools about what it was going to look like, and then come to find out that we couldn't hire. So that was tough too. Sorry for the long answers. I'll try to be
No, it was great. Yeah, Alan and I were part of we took part in the Construction Academy program. When we were in high school, we both did building construction. So that's when we first learned about it. And so we did the program in 2018, 2017, something like that. And we hoped to be back on the following year. But yeah, that's when we found out it was canceled. And then one of the instructors as well, Mr. J, and I think another one, Mr. Owens, they were both at Waipahu High School, and they were teaching us. So when they told us, they might not get a job, we, Alan, I, and a bunch of our higher level building construction students petitioned Waipahu High School to hire at least one of them. And so Mr. J was able to get on, and then we believe Mr. Owens is now somewhere in Kapolei working there, I think. So that was really interesting. It was fun. I wish the Construction Academy would still be back on, because I think any program that allows high schoolers and middle schoolers, and pretty much anyone younger to experience some part of college life, I think is a great benefit to not just their learning, but to everybody. Yeah, and it helps cultivate what they want to do.
Well, first of all, that's awesome that you guys did that petition. I'd been speaking with Principal Hayashi that whole time, and he was like, Mr. David J, we got to keep him. And he was one of the ones that we had wanted to put back at Waipahu. So I'm so glad that he was hired to work there. And he did a great job with all of you guys. And then, and secondly, I totally agree. I mean, anytime we can smoothen the pathway for high school students to go to college and to get some kind of college level education is always a good thing, because we want to blur the line between 12th grade and freshman year of college. And so we're trying to do more with classes like welding, blueprint reading, which you guys know about, and offer those at the high school level so you can get the early college credits. So that's what we're doing. I think we even offered the AEC, the first class there.
Yeah, I think it's offered last year.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah. So our teacher, President I's teacher, she was telling us all the stories that they had.
High school students.
And then all the meetings they had to start figuring things out. It was just, our teacher was ranting to us a lot. So
you were really close back. So, yeah. But at least it worked out. So that was the important bit for.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So on the topic of plans in the future, what do you see, I guess, for the immediate future of Honolulu CC and maybe farther down the line?
Well, we're very lucky because I think we serve a niche in our community that not all institutions can serve. I mean, we are outfitted with some of the state-of-the-art equipment and supplies and settings for our students to get their career and technical education done. I don't know if you guys know, but the automotive and diesel site is further down, right across the street. And the bays are huge. We have a lot of donations of cars that people give us so that our students can work on live cars. The parking there, you guys know about that from last year, but the parking is plentiful. And so students can spread out, they can do the physical distancing. But then besides that site, we also have the aeronautical technician program out at Lagoon Drive. and their students, they have real airplanes that they're working on. And then over at METSI, which is the Marine Education Center in Sand Island, we have a Polynesian Voyaging Society there. So the canoes are there, the bays are huge. And everyone from the industry that comes over and looks at all of our technology. I mean, you guys in Mele and AEC, and, you see the 3D printers and, just all the stuff that's out there. And people from the industry are amazed that our students get to train on all of this. And so I really think that we are special. Oh, I should mention, fashion and cosmetology, they bring on the public to come and get their hair done and their nails and facials. So it's amazing for our students. And many of these programs that we offer are the only ones in the state where you can get licensing and certifications. And then add to that, not just, training and skill building, but also that you get to do the professional skills through liberal arts. So whether that's, speech and English and writing, working together as teams, which you guys do, and critical thinking skills, those are all really, really important. So I feel like at HonCC, we really fill a special niche, and that makes us a premier institution that we need to keep. And I think pretty much in talking with the other chancellors that, we will keep that as our special. We're a jewel in the crown for a lot of the UH system.
Yeah, me and Alan just had a meeting with high school counselors advocating for what Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to see some of our counselors, and we basically just advertise, hey, HonCC is a great place to come because of all the wonderful programs and support services.
Good job, guys. We need more of them to come here. A lot of students do go into healthcare, which we don't offer, or business, which is also not, one of the areas we offer, or culinary. But it's not a plan of mine to ever offer any of those. I mean, they can go to LCC, they can go to KCC for that. But we have our niche where, we're going to train students to be the best communicators or the best architectural engineers or, best surveyors. And we should put more resources into what we already do well and not take on new areas when there are other community colleges that can offer them. So good job, guys.
Yeah, and I agree with that because even our for example the AEC program, I have a few friends who are taking the architecture and engineering at UH, and then they're saying, they wish they would have came to HCC because it would have been so much easier, and they said they could have gotten their degrees faster, and it's great. It is a great niche, I think, and so yeah.
Well, even to learn Revit and CAD. You don't always get that at, one of the other campuses. So I think having those skills already puts you at a certain level, in looking for a job eventually.
So you mentioned how we should basically carve out our own niche on campuses and stuff like that. Do you think that be the case for also like consolidating courses and programs between the campuses and figuring out which campus gets to do what, or which campus gets to keep what, for especially in the current climate?
Yeah, that is a very, very good question. The 7 community colleges, we have been talking about whether it is possible to share courses. And I think it's possible, but it's going to take a lot of coordination and not easy to do. What we want to avoid doing is if one campus offers a class that is kind of underloaded, under enrolled, and then another campus is offering the exact same class, can we share, especially if the class is online? It doesn't make sense that we would hire somebody if we can share the resources. We've never done that before, right? HonCC has operated as its own campus. We've never picked up the phone and called KCC. Hey, do you guys offer chemistry, blah, blah, blah? And, can we move our students over? Never done that. So it's a lot easier said than done. But this is something that we want to try to move to for efficiency, for efficiency's sake. And then same way with credit classes and non-credit classes, is it possible to share faculty between the two? And we've kind of always kept them separate. That's more administrative in nature. But can we share faculty? If someone's teaching a cybersecurity course for credit, and then we're teaching a cyber course for non-credit, for industry or whatever, can't that be the same instructor? So those are things that we are looking into. And I think it makes sense to do that. These will have to be classes that are shared amongst the 7 community colleges. So they won't be niche classes. They'll be like English or history or, something like that. But that's what we're kind of working on now.
When do you think that might be implemented? Because I can see that, the challenge into it, because getting all 7 CCs to agree on like the course numbers and the course names would probably be difficult. But do you think we will eventually go to that we will actually have those sort of consolidations with all the roadblocks that's already in front of us?
Yeah, well, there have been a few courses where we've done it already this semester, and it's worked. And part of it is just campuses talking to each other. Professor so-and-so has retired, but we have all these students who need Calculus 3. Hey, Leeward, are you guys teaching it online? And can we have our students enroll there? So I think we can eventually get there. But in terms of if we change up the curriculum or we consolidate a program so that only one campus offers it, that's hard to do because we're talking about real faculty, lecturers. But some of at the class level, the section level, some of that is already going on, which is kind of nice to see that collaboration is happening. I think any big changes, probably won't happen, not even this next year, 2021, 22. I don't think we could do it, but maybe after that, we'll see. So there are a bunch of subcommittees that are meeting and talking about whether this will be possible.
So do you think that HCC is transforming because of COVID into a more online-based campus, or there's a hope that we're going to somehow get back to pre-COVID conception, right? Face-to-face?
Yeah, good question. We will never be University of Phoenix. I've mentioned that a few times. Completely online. There's no way we could do it. And, from what I've heard from faculty, I don't know if it's a consensus, but we've been hearing more and more that students want to come back, to in-person learning. And, I know how it is. When you see somebody face to face, you just have better focus. When we're all on Zoom all day, it's so easy to get distracted. And I know for myself, by 3:00, I'm kind of zoomed out. If I've been Zooming all day, I cannot Zoom after 3 o'clock. It's really hard to do. I mean, I'll do it, but that's not the best, right? But on the other hand, we do have a number of students who work during the day and they want to come back to school and get their degrees. So they want asynchronous or evening online classes. They might have children at home or parents they have to take care of or other babysitting duties, for siblings. And so we want to be available to those types of students as well. And not to mention, we supposedly are supposed to be having rail come through. I mean, who knows if that will really happen? But I was getting worried about rail coming through and that impacting the ability of the students getting on campus and parking on campus, because Dillingham will be ripped up, be really, really hard to get on campus. And so I had wanted more of our classes to be taught online, at least the ones that could. And then COVID happened, so it kind of forced it to happen a lot sooner than we had thought. But moving forward, Bryson, I think that most likely we will come back more in person, but we will still have a healthy number of classes be taught online. I'm not sure yet what that mix will look like, but we won't look like how we looked pre-COVID, but we won't be University of Phoenix either.
Right, and that's understandable that we COVID is a storm and it came through and we're just building a better foundation.
Yeah, that's right.
So back on the rail, what are your opinions about the rail project?
Oh gosh. I lived in New York City 13 years. I loved the subway. I never had to have a car. I mean, it was awesome to get around. And I think that I'm going to say when rail is completed, that it has potential to be really great for our campus, because the stop is supposed to be right on our campus. And for any students living out on the west side, getting into town is so hard, right? The traffic is just horrendous. And if this can spare students, whether coming from Kapolei or West Oahu, and then trying to take a class with us, it potentially could be really, really awesome. But getting to that point, man, is pretty painful. So, I'm just looking forward to the day when it's done and we can get some kind of consistency. Yeah. What do you guys think about rail?
I thought they should have done it a long time ago because when I first heard of the rail, at least it was back in high school, and there was talks of have the station being close to our campus, our school, and then they said it would go across the island. I said, wow, I'd never need a car to go places. So I kind of held back on my license a while because of that, and then all of a sudden, it's gonna take another 5 years, and so I'm like, maybe I should get a car just in case, get my license. So I sped through that, but I think the rail is a really great opportunity for it, but it's just that the construction is taking so long for it. The love for it kind of dissipated.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind. Well, because I'm all for more public transportation, and I think that Hawaii needs that especially.
Yeah.
But all the stopgaps and all the problems along the way, it's kind of like, just get it over with already.
When we come this far, you might as well finish it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I heard that the rail might have more problems. Well, I don't want to say problems, but I heard that instead of going through Middle Street, they want to go through Nimitz instead. So I don't know if that's ever gonna happen, but more construction on that side of it, I guess, if it does.
Yeah, I heard that too. We're trying to get a solid answer from Hart. What are the plans? We hear rumors of, instead of Dillingham, they'll go to Nimitz, but who knows? Moving target.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So on the future for HonCC, to me, for sure, COVID is going to be a big impact. It has a big impact on it, but to me, there's the one biggest factor to any development is the climate. So, do you think that HonCC is going to move more towards like a greener or a more futuristic kind of campus where
Sustainable?
Yeah, more sustainable or more. I want to say futuristic. Okay.
Yeah, flying cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is there a specific goal in mind you have with that in mind for campus?
Yeah, that is a really good question. I would love that. I mean, my husband drives an electric vehicle, and it would be really awesome to be greener, more sustainable, futuristic. What's tough is, as you guys know, we are the oldest community college, 100 years.
Oh, 101 now.
Yeah, 101. And it's so hard to retrofit old buildings and old infrastructure to be green. And in particular, our neighborhood in Kalihi has all kinds of infrastructure problems. And that's partly why rail is thinking about going down on Nimitz, because, when they've been digging up the Dillingham roads, they realize like underneath all of the different pipes and wiring and water, it's a big mess. And if you guys have ever been on campus when we've had a lot of rain, you'll see like the floods, right? Everybody drives down the middle of Dillingham because the roads like kind of come down like this, and then it's all flooded, so you can't drive there. And that's just to say, we have tried a bunch of things. So one of the things we had wanted to do that was in our original plan was, the new student parking lot that just got built. Mm-hmm. That was supposed to have PV over it, but it couldn't. And a number of different reasons having to do with like the soil and the ground and the poles that could go in. And we were so disappointed in that, because having PV or solar or something would help us with our electricity so much. And so we do have PV on some of our roofs, and certainly going forward as we're repairing, that is always in our plans to do that. But it's not easy, and it's extremely expensive, at least initially. But that is thank you for asking that question, because that is our goal. And as you guys know, like through the Student Sustainability Club, and then we also have sustainability coordinators on campus, we're trying to move more in that direction as we are able to do so. And then, in some of our programs too, now some of the classes will have a S designation, a sustainability designation, so that the classes that are taught with that focus in mind, you'll be able to see on the schedule of classes. Even in our automotive and diesel classes, they are learning the EV technologies. So we're trying to do that as well. And then in some of our non-credit energy classes, we want to train frontline workers. So that's firefighters and police, to understand how to fight different energy fires that can come up. So, electrical, but PV and solar, you have to, if there's a fire or an emergency, you have to deal with those differently. So that's some of the training we're doing too. But we have a long way to go.
I look forward to it. Even down the line when we're old people.
Yeah.
We will design it.
Oh my.
Was there ever any thought of installing photovoltaic walls or curtain walls on like the glass windows and stuff? I know they're more expensive, but there's that as well for longer, bigger buildings.
I don't know. That's a good question. I will find out from our facilities guys. I didn't realize that was like the new technology.
Yeah.
Can windows be retrofitted with that for existing buildings?
I'm not sure.
So. I'm not sure, but yeah.
It's relatively new technology. It's probably came up within this past decade.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And the only reason why I know of this is because we did the tiny house challenge. So we learned a lot of material science, and there was even talk of like battery packed walls where walls would contain the battery cells.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know how structurally good that is, but I mean, more battery space, I guess.
Let's hope it doesn't rain too much.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I hope that, not to get into politics or anything, but I hope the new administration pushes more to that green aspect of our society, because it was kind of not apparent for the longest time, right?
I agree.
So here's a fun question. What do you say, if anything, when you hear people talking bad about HCC and they don't know that you're the chancellor?
I was trying to think, has that ever happened to me? I don't think so. But if that happened, man, I would definitely talk back. I don't know if Chris heard me say this morning at planning council, like, I'm very competitive. So, I got to make sure we're doing our best and that people understand who we are. A lot of people are like, oh, HCC, it's so industrial. You guys are always like under construction. Or they kind of
always improving.
What's that?
If we're under construction, we're always being improved.
Yeah, right. We're improving. And I think people, who don't know who we are kind of poo-poo us. They know KCC because of culinary. They might know LCC if they're out on the west side. But we have a lot to offer. And I personally have felt like we need to get out there more and publicize our brand, because we have a lot to offer. So that's one of my goals, is to make sure we're constantly getting out there, talking about all that we have to offer. And it's funny because once people either get on campus or they learn about what we have, they're always like, oh, wow, I had no idea. I don't know if you guys get that, but I get that a lot. And then, when you talk to people, they're like, oh, I went to HCC. They don't say anything at first, but then they're like, I went to HCC, and then you realize that they had a great experience, that they really liked it before they transferred on. So, yeah, I do my best to plug us.
That's awesome. Do you have any other thoughts or announcements that you might want to share to all the students that might be listening right now?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I love this podcast. I think you guys are doing such an awesome job. And not just because I'm on it right now, but just in general, you guys have talked about a lot of relevant topics dealing with campus life and what students are dealing with. And the three of you guys have done it so professionally, with a lot of really good questions. And I'm sad that you guys are graduating, but want to thank you for your leadership, because it's really been great. And even as our campus has had to pivot because of COVID, you guys did that seamlessly and did such a good job. So thank you.
Well, we don't mind being graduate assistants after.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my.
That'd be awesome.
So on graduation, do you have anything to say to all those who are graduating? What do you think they might come back, or do you think we'll ever get a ceremony?
Yeah, actually, that's funny. I was just emailing with Emily about it today. I want to hear from you guys. What do you recommend? What would you like to have happen? We can't, unfortunately, have an in-person ceremony. But if we did something virtual, if we put something on the website, if we sent stuff out to students, what would be meaningful to all of you, where you still get to have your own identity, as you graduate, because everybody likes to dress differently and do all fun things, but still safe at the same time. So you guys recommend something that you would like to have happen, and then we'll try to do our best to make it happen. My advice to graduates always is, like at the beginning of the podcast, I was talking about be open to opportunities. Don't ever say no immediately. Just think it through. Talk to people that you know, and take advantage of everything that you know. Here in Hawaii in particular, if you have connections, if you know people, it's just a great way for doors to be open to you. So don't be shy. I know the three of you guys are not, but for everybody else listening, don't be shy about talking to people in areas that you want to be in. Take advantage of those relationships that you have.
Thank you again, Chancellor. And where can students find more information regarding the latest campus updates and announcements?
Good question. So honolulu.hawaii.edu. That's the place to find all of the information, including COVID updates. So be sure to check that out. And I'm sure also the Kala podcast is a great resource as well.
Thank you for the plug.
This episode is sponsored by the Chancellor.
Oh, no.
Thank you again, Chancellor.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you for having me. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
So just a couple of reminders to students. Whenever you're coming to campus, make sure to use the Lumicite app. You guys can use the online version, UH.campus.lumicite.com, or you guys can download the app available at Apple and Google. Make sure you guys wear a mask, and if you guys want to make an appointment for your counselors, make sure to use Star Ballot. For more information on campus updates and available services, make sure to visit honolulu.hawaii.edu/COVID-19 services.
And students, do you want to help make fun campus events, run campus media, or want to make a difference for HonCC? Consider becoming a student leader just like all of us. Email hccsod@hawaii.edu on how to apply. Although the submission deadline has passed, you can still submit artwork to be featured in the upcoming issue of the Art and Soul magazine. We accept late submissions, but act now soon because we're going to start production on the magazine. You can submit at tinyurl.com/HCC Art and Soul.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram to be on the loop for more HonCC events at HonCC_SLV and at HCC Kala News. Make sure to visit dakala.net for HonCC News. Thank you guys again for listening to Kala Podcast. You guys can listen in on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and Anchor. New episodes out every Monday. See you guys next time.
Have a good one. Thank you. What last question?
Oh, okay.
Do you have an Instagram?
Oh,
To set you up an account, Chancellor.
Yeah. I had to ask it.
I was gonna ask you too.